She began training as an entertainer at the age of 5, but left it all behind at the age of 20 after giving her life to Christ. Annaliese Bauer is now making her way in the faith-based film industry and has stepped into the role of first assistant director as we continue our series of short bonus episodes on location from the set of Empty Nets. But first, if you're finding this podcast helpful, take a moment to follow or subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you think others would be interested in listening, please rate and review to make it easier for others to find. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or podchaser.com.
This is the Faith and Family Filmmakers Podcast, helping filmmakers who share a Christian worldview stay in touch, informed, and inspired. Quiet on set. Rolling. Today's host is Jeffrey Witt.
Hey, this is Geoff with the Faith and Family Filmmakers Podcast. I'm on the set of Empty Nets, and today I'm talking with Annaliese Bauer.
Hello.
I'm so happy to have met you here on this set, Annaliese. I actually remember you first from a table read of Decklyn's, and she was doing Flashback Jane, and you played the lead role.
Yeah.
Who cast you for that?
I believe it was Venus through Decklynn, maybe together, a joint deal.
I don't remember.
I know Venus reached out to me about it, and it was a huge honor because ever since the day I met Decklynn, she had said she wanted me to read for her at some point for some character, and so it was very full circle that I got to that moment.
So we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
I just want to say Decklynn and I were very impressed with your performance.
Thank you.
We really felt that you did it justice.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
I love
was
that
cool.
role.
Yeah. So tell us a little about the beginnings for you. What led you to where you are today? How did you start in film?
Yeah, so when I was about 5 years old, my parents put me in a conservatory. So I started acting, singing, dancing, all of that from a really, really early age and was in strict classes up until I graduated high school. So it was pretty natural for me to then go from that. In high school, I had an agent at the time, too. I'd already started doing some film stuff alongside theater. So when I went into college, I went into that as well, acting, dialect coaching. And then I got out of it when I found the Lord. I had just turned kind of 20 years old at that point. I was like end of 19, early 20. And COVID, pandemic, all of that. Yeah. I got pretty disgusted with kind of the industry at that point, just in general with politics. All of that was happening at the same time, and with, the pandemic. So I stepped away, found the Lord through kind of a relationship that ended, and all of that I just mentioned before as well happening. So my world kind of fell apart. So for the first time since I was 5 years old, I stopped acting. Didn't audition, didn't anything. The Lord moved me up to New Hampshire for my good old wilderness period. And I just became what I considered a civilian, just a regular person. I stepped away completely, and I thought that acting was a sin. So I didn't know that the Christian film industry existed at that point. And then my oldest sister, who is in Texas, reached out to me and asked if I would go to a film festival, a Christian film festival, and said, the gentleman that runs it, Mr. Tim Shields, was going to give me a scholarship to go. I just needed to get there. And it was in 2 weeks. I was like, absolutely not.
Short notice.
Very short notice. I had 2 bosses at 2 different jobs. But I think she communicated with my mom, and my mom was like, nah, you will have to go. Because my mom was excited that, I was getting to know the Lord and stuff and wanted me there. So I showed up to Content that fall, and it was there that the Lord spoke to me in the garden and was like, I have called you to this. Why would you think that all those years of training and all that time and money and effort spent was for nothing? It wouldn't be. But you're going to do it for me. And so I got connected that first time around. That's where I met Decklynn.
Yes.
She was the first person that I met.
That's a cool story.
It's so cool. I had flown in, so I didn't have a car, and I was at the hotel, and I put a little note out on Facebook and was like, can somebody drive me from the Red Lion over to the studios? And she was the first person to respond. And so I just took a chance. I was like, sure, I'll ride with you. And we got in the car, and I think 5 minutes down the road, we got pulled over by cops because Decklynn doesn't know American laws.
It wasn't that bad from what I hear, but
no,
anyway.
He was so nice. And when he found out that we were going to Capernaum, I think he was even nicer, and it was just like, God bless you guys.
Cool.
Get there safe, and just maybe don't do that again. But yeah, he was great. And in that car ride, Decklynn was like, "Oh, I would love to have you, read a script that I write one day or something like that." And I was like, "Okay," but I had no idea when that would come. And a few contents later, and now working for content film festivals and stuff, which is also where I met Nathan Blair and others in the cast, Leland, Samuel and Charity, Benji. We all met through the film festival, and now we're here. So
Yeah, working together.
Working together.
Cool.
Yeah.
So those years prior to giving your life to Christ, were you primarily focused on acting?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was very acting centric. I was really prideful. And I think it's also being raised in that environment where all your acting coaches kind of tell you if you do anything other than acting, you failed.
Right.
Like they're like, the people who fail at acting go and do the other jobs.
Okay.
Which is so far from the truth. And I just can't even believe I was brainwashed for so long. But it's honestly part of my testimony, and I'm not mad about it because that transition of becoming a believer and then stepping into other roles is just a really beautiful story arc. Once I came to the Lord, I started writing, and then I started crewing and becoming a servant, and like my heart started becoming a servant's heart. And now I think it's some of my favorite things to do, and I miss acting, and I really look forward to getting back to it.
So let's talk about your role. We are here on set at Empty
Yeah.
Nets, and this is a special series of interviews.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. What are you doing here? What's your role? What's your title?
Well, I'm really honored to be the first AD, which I've discovered I really enjoy doing and being.
So this is your first time doing that role?
It is, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I came from mostly PA kind of crewing background to now getting to do this. And it's been a really great, full of grace training ground for what I'm doing.
I imagine doing that for a first time with Nathan would be
Yes.
the best place you could possibly do it.
And we even had that built-in break on accident. I still tell Leland I'm so grateful for it, and I try not to be insensitive, but that 2-month break in between, or however long it was, changed my life in so many ways. And it was cool to go from first dating on the set for the very first time and kind of fumbling my way through it to having a 2-month break where I got to be on about 4 different sets since then.
Oh, wow.
And in those sets, I was really focused on what the other first ADs were doing because I wasn't first ADing on those other sets.
Right.
But now that I had stepped into this role on Empty Nets, I was determined to really hone it in and study. And so I got the chance to do that on other sets. So now when I came back the second time around, I feel very well qualified for what I do.
Okay. So for those...
better qualified. I don't know if very...
For those who are listening who don't know the various roles and what they actually do, describe the first AD role, first assistant director.
So obviously it can look different on every set. Jeff and I have talked about this a bunch. It does look different on this set. But first AD is the first assistant director. So my primary focus is making sure director has what he needs. What that looks like logistically is a lot of paperwork stuff in pre-production and even during production. So making sure things are scheduled, call sheets go out, everyone's communicated with. And this is where kind of a producer role comes in too for me, is the communication with people. First ADs do that, but that's also kind of a producer thing to do, and there's other roles on set that would do that as well. But I communicate with everyone and especially try to keep things on schedule.
Okay. Letting people know what time they need to show up, arranging the background actors and letting them know what days they need to be here and what time.
Arranging them on set as well, planning, communicating with them, and
Well, one of my major roles here has been transportation. So you and I have been in communication regularly because you are the one who has kept track of when everyone's flying in and when somebody needs to be there to pick them up. So
exactly.
A lot of different things.
You basically have to have a hand in everyone's circle and just know what everyone is doing at all times.
It sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it's not for somebody who can't multitask and can't keep organized.
Okay, so tell me, on set, when we're actually filming, what is it that you're doing?
So on set, I'm calling at the beginning of shots. Usually on most sets, and Nathan does do the calls for rolling and slate and stuff like that, but you would want to know that terminology because you're calling, slate in, sound, camera, etc. And I do call rolling and cut over our radio system. And then If I'm being honest, I'm probably sending emails while the scene's going. I'm also on book a lot of the time. Scripty does that as well. Our Scripty Miss Charity has her hands in a lot of stuff as well, so she's busy. So we'll both be on script, and I'll be looking at continuity too.
Yeah. So by on script, go ahead, tell us what that means.
Yeah. So on script and on book means that I'm reading the lines, or I'm trying to read the lines while the actors are, so I can be ready to feed it to them if they mess up, if they forget a line, or they don't know where we're at. Yeah. So I do that. Send emails. Make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And sometimes in the middle of all that, I get my call time for the next day.
Exactly.
So yeah,
I'm making call sheets. Yeah.
Cool. Seems like you really enjoy it.
I love it. Yeah. I like people. I like helping you guys as much as I can. Hopefully I do that.
You certainly do. Well, I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I appreciate you just sharing your knowledge. Before we started talking, you were quite humble and, didn't want to try and come across as an expert.
Not even close.
But one of the things that's clear here on set is that there are a lot of younger people here on the set. But it is clear that they cannot be judged for their skill based on their age.
Yes.
And part of it is because Nathan, maybe most of the people doing their jobs so well wouldn't be able to run a whole set on their own. They might not be able to do it without a Nathan keeping it all together.
Absolutely.
But what they do it competently. And they do have the expertise to do what they're doing. And that's why it's going to turn out great.
It will. We've got such a good team.
And it's been a unique experience living here all together in the, accommodations that Capernaum has as well. Camp, Anyway, thanks so much, Annaliese.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Faith and Family Filmmakers Podcast. If you would like email reminders about newly released episodes and more, please sign up at faffpodcast.com/email. That's faffpodcast.com/email. Bringing filmmakers together for faith and family.
That's a wrap.